everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Bullis Show. Today, I have with me Robin Singhvi. Now, I've maybe got that not quite right. How do you actually pronounce it?
You actually got it right, Jeff. It is Robin Singhvi. It's as easy as it seems.
Okay, I'm so glad I nailed that. That's really cool. So, why am I talking to Robin? Because he's actually the founder of SmartQ, which is about smart sales effectiveness platform that helps sales teams deliver personalized product demos and close deal faster. We live in a world of virtual reality in essence, where you can't turn up to the same room, and we're trying to sell 24/7 to a global audience. Robin spent over a decade in the US B2B software as a service space as a sales and solution leader, playing the quarterback. And we may need to explain that to the rest of the world because that's a very USA term. Between sales and product teams to develop and execute the best solutions for customers and key stakeholders. It built up the muscle memory to identify prospect needs and accelerate deal cycles in a 24/7 virtual world. Robin has demonstrated success at driving high value, complex, strategic partnerships with multiple stakeholders and teams in a highly matrixed environment. I quite like the movie Matrix, actually, by the way. Robin has a computer science degree. I don't have a degree anywhere near that. I did a teaching degree. He did that in India in 2003 and has an MBA from Willamette University in Salem, Oregon. After his MBA, he spent 10 plus years with startups of various sizes in all the B2B software as a service space, selling to enterprise clients, mostly in the US. His roles at these companies are primarily at the intersection of sales and product. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. You got my name right, but we need to correct the name of my alma mater here. So it's Willamette, right? And the way we explain it to people is it's Willamette, damn it. So it's easy to remember. How about that?
I like the actual go-to on that, obviously, because Willamette, damn it, is actually a go-to phrase that you use because no one actually can take it correctly.
Perhaps that's probably true.
So, number one question. Why did you start SmartQ? Because was that inspiration or was it desperation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the honest answer, Jeff, is that I lived through the problem that I'm trying to solve for today with SmartQ. Like you said, I spent 10 plus years selling to enterprise clients in the B2B space. And at these companies, my role was at the intersection of sales and products. So part of my team's responsibility was to ensure that sales teams had all the info and ammunition to do a great demo, to provide them the collaterals and assets that they need to move a deal along.
Yep.
We did all that, but we still ended up seeing that reps were showcasing sort of the same vanilla cookie cutter, one size fits all demo to their prospects.
Yep.
And that was very underwhelming. The second thing that happened was, the pandemic hit in 2020, right? And now reps did not have the luxury of going out, meeting their prospects in person, establishing a rapport, and perhaps using that to move a deal along faster. So that really was the perfect storm and the inspiration, so to say, for me to start SmartQ, where you have these two constraints now. You're selling complex products that are ever evolving, and you are limited by a perhaps impersonal, cold medium through which you still have to ensure that you're making that sale. How do you equip sales reps and sales teams to be able to do that faster and still hit quota? That's what led to SmartQ.
Okay, so you're working for companies, you have this like aha moment about how do we do this?
Mhm.
So did you do this as a side hustle? Did you sort of like go, I need to develop this on the side while I'm working at the company? Or do you go, I'm just going to dive off the deep end and start this company? I'm going to spend tons of money on developers. How did so you got this insight? Okay,
Yep.
so that's the call, right? What's next?
Yeah. So it was a little bit of the latter, right, Jeff, where I felt that the problem was urgent enough to be solved that I couldn't solve it doing it as a side hustle. I was lucky that, having spent about 10 plus years working at various startups, we had a few successful exits as well. So I could afford to kind of just take a step back and put all of my energies into building SmartQ, right? Even so, you know, I've learned this lesson from a lot of my former bosses and leaders is how do you stay lean, right? I think that's held
Exactly.
me in good stead,
Yep.
especially given the current market situation, right? So we have a very lean team right from day one, and even before we started building the product, I actually took it upon myself to have at least 100 conversations with folks who I thought were my buyers, right?
Uh,
I went to them and said that, hey, you know what? This is the problem that I'm trying to solve, and this is how I'm intending to solve it.
yep.
Is this a problem for you? Is this a big enough problem for you? And would you pay for someone to solve this problem? Right? Only when I had some initial validation did I actually, start putting together the initial MVP of SmartQ, right? And then went out and tried to sell that, which was basically, a bunch of code that I wrote, duct taped together, and then presented to some of my prospects, and they're like, yeah, I think this is great. Would pay for it. I'm like, well, can you pay for it now? And then a few of them did, and I used that money essentially to fund the development of the product.
Okay.
And that's, we're trying to keep that ethos in the company. That how do you, for as long as possible, make the company uh, client or prospect driven or revenue driven, as opposed to investor or funding driven, right?
Yep. So you create a minimal viable product,
Correct. Yes.
and I've actually just made up a recent term on this: minimal testable product.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I think there's another one, right? Is that minimal
Lovable.
yeah, lovable, or I think there's a phrase I'm blanking out, which is that the product that the lowest common denominator that someone will pay for.
Okay, so let's think about the term for that actually. Uh,
Yeah,
Minimal payable product.
I love that. There you go. You
So
should trademark that.
so we got MPP, minimal lovable product, LLP, minimal testable product, minimal viable product. I think we're moving on to a whole bunch of acronyms, right? That
Yeah.
we could just nail, right? So, okay, so that is really cool. All right, so you've launched it, you got some people to pay for it. Now, what's intriguing to me is what data did you use to actually work out that it's working?
Uh, it was pretty rudimentary, honestly. It was
Right.
that, I have a few people that have paid for it. I have a spreadsheet of people who said, yes, this is interesting. Yes, this is a problem. And yes, I would pay for it.
Well, we
Right.
could go. We could go straight to MIP, minimal interesting product.
Yeah, sure. We could perhaps. And if I had all these acronyms earlier, perhaps I could have just sold that and raised a bunch more money. But I didn't meet Jeff sooner.
Mate, no problem. I'm just actually tossing acronyms into the equation here.
Yeah, I know,
All right.
I know.
Okay, so you started. So you created a product that people are actually using. What next?
Yeah, so we deployed the product in its initial duct taped form to a few of our initial clients, and it bombed, right? The promise that we sold to what we actually delivered was very different.
Right.
It's the unfortunate reality, but what it allowed us to do is get some really good insights into how our customers intend to use our product. What is their expectations from a product that is in their sales stack? And then what do we need to do to meet those expectations? Right. So as a timeline, this is early January, February when we implemented this early version of our product with some of our clients.
Mm-hmm.
It bombed, it failed. We got feedback. I want to say around April, May, June timeframe, and then we took that
2022.
2022. Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And for context, I incorporated the company in October 2021, so just over a year now. And so we got all this insight, and then we completely re-architected the product, right? Because we got insights like that this is a product that I intend to use when I'm doing a virtual demo live for a prospect. So it cannot crash. Great insight, right? So it's like, even if it's a minimum viable product, it still had to have that level of stability to gain the confidence of a rep who is going to use it when they're doing live product demos.
Yep.
Right. So that was the first thing. And then they're like, well, these are the other tools that I use, and this is how I use them. And the learning we got there was that nowadays a lot of reps use Chrome extensions. The Chrome browser has a bunch of extensions in there. They use them because that's just in their workflow, because they're showing web-based products. They want to record a call. They want to transcribe a call. They want to get intelligence about their prospects. All of that they tend to do, in the browser itself. So we're like, instead of the version that we had prior, which required a bunch of installation and doing a lot of jumping through a lot of hoops before you actually start using it, we needed something that was right there that fit into the rep's existing workflow. So we scrapped everything that we had. We built a really simple, really light Chrome extension with the North Star being that it has to be extremely stable. It cannot crash when folks are using it for their prospect demos. So those are some of the learnings that we got. And post that, we launched it out again. We officially launched the product to the world in like September of this year. We launched on Product Hunt, which is a pretty well-known marketplace or discovery platform for a lot of early stage companies. We launched on there. We were product of the day in September, and that is sort of that is the way we're trying to ride at this moment, where we got a lot of inbounds. We're trying to run a bunch of pilots, and then go through that second round of feedback and insights from our customers.
So have you funded this totally from your own capital, or you've actually gone to the market and going, here's a minimal viable product, fund us?
Again, the latter, right? So the initial product was funded by myself. Once we got a little validation, once we saw a few customers pay for it, that's when I went out and raised a very small pre-seed round. I intentionally went out to an accelerator as opposed to like a traditional VC.
Right.
The idea being that, I'm a solo founder, a first-time founder. So in addition to the money, I actually really need guidance, help, mentorship, connections, network to really help me make this into a successful, scalable business. So we did that, and we raised a very small pre-seed round earlier in the year.
Right. So Tell me a little bit more about you're a startup. How do I reach out to the world and start to generate leads and get people into my sales funnel?
Well, isn't that the $1 million question that whether you're a startup or an established company you
It,
have, right? I mean, your
it doesn't matter.
go-to-market.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly, right. There may be nuances, but I think go-to-market is a universal problem that everyone is trying to solve in a similar manner. So for us, it was that, okay, you don't have marketing dollars. You can't like throw a bunch of money at ads and things like that. So what are the things you can do? So launching a product hunt actually was one such organic sort of viral way of getting out into the market and getting the attention and eyeballs of our prospects, right? So I think Product Hunt gets like a few million views a day, and we kind of just put our bets on the fact that we'll launch on Product Hunt and we'll get a bunch of warm inbound inquiries from that. Of course, we're running the traditional email marketing funnels. I'm trying to write a bunch of content that helps people discover SmartQ, and
Yep.
Robin is the founder of SmartQ. So we're doing all of that, but it is still an amorphous, ongoing activity that we're thinking through and coming up with new ideas every day.
So the challenging part of a startup is I need to pay for attention or I need to actually earn attention. In other words, who are the partners you're leading into to help you get interest and attention that is not
Yeah.
paid for?
Yes. So as a matter of fact, getting on and being invited to podcasts like yours, Jeff, is
Yep.
an interesting approach that we're taking where we know that a lot of our target audiences listen to you. They read what you have to say, they hear what you have to say, and then if I have a conversation with you, if I establish myself as someone who is visible in all of these places where sales leaders, product marketing leaders hang
Yep.
out, that I think is an interesting way for us to gain attention,
Right.
right? We've been writing a lot. We've been reaching out to blogs and publications and communities that cater to our target market to try and gain attention, right? And then finally, I think community building, right? So we're part of things like the pre-sales collective. There's the sales enablement collective and other communities over Slack or otherwise,
Mhm.
where we're going in and trying and engaging with folks there, having right discussions, and using that to garner, a genuine conversation as opposed to forcing a conversation.
So it raises the question too a little bit about marketing. So you can either lean into referral marketing, which is like myself, or you can lean into paid. Have you used any paid advertising as well?
Zero, zero paid advertising. That's by design. I feel that one, there is the obvious drawback that we have that we can't compete with the big guns out there, dollar for dollar.
Yep.
But more interestingly, we don't want to force ourselves in front of customers or in front of people who may or may not want to engage with us. We want to create valuable, interesting content and conversations that will invite and attract the kind of people that we want to engage with, right? So we're putting a lot of energy and effort into creating thought leadership content, whether it is blog posts or conversations like this, or having webinars and talking to industry leaders to sort of attract the right set of audience. So definitely all organic and no paid is the current focus. We'll see how that scales over a quarter or two.
Cool. So how important is content to you?
Extremely, right? Extremely important, because that's the only way that I can see folks discovering SmartQ and Robin, right?
Yep.
Otherwise, how do you establish confidence in people that, hey, you know what, I'm trying to solve a problem for my sales team. Why should I trust Robin? Why should I go with SmartQ? And the only way you can do that is putting out content that folks will consume, will resonate with, and then as a result, come back to you for your expertise and hopefully then for your product that you're selling.
Yep. So what you're trying to do is create credibility through your content.
Exactly.
Cool. So in terms of what you're trying to do, what are the next steps to make sure that SmartQ is the place to go?
Yes. So one is doubling down on the current initiatives that we've started. We will really double down on content, on visibility, on organic. We also will start to tap some of the traditional channels. We're looking to hire an SDR. We're looking to, set up our email marketing platforms, do a lot more on LinkedIn, where we know that a lot of our prospects live. And of course, we're trying to build in a lot of referral and virality loops inside the product itself, right? Because once people come in, once they have experienced the product, and once they really like what they see, we want to enable these loyal or champion users to be able to invite other folks onto the platform. I think there is no better, cheaper, and more effective way to get clients and retain clients rather than a warm referral from someone your prospects trust, right? So we're doing that obviously, and all of that of course requires a lot of capital. So we are actually in the process of raising our seed round. So we're hoping to we've started now, and we're hoping to close by March or April of next year.
Right. So the challenge for you on seed round, as in funding. So you initially funded it from yourself.
Yep.
You're going, okay, so we test a hypothesis, and I'll get enough. So how do you test what you do is actually worth doubling down on?
Yeah, so I think we're just looking at our data, right? Our retention data of clients.
Data is very, very important. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So we can't have people coming in and then just churning out. What we're seeing is people coming in, liking what they see, staying on the platform, using it, right? So retention is actually the biggest lever, or the insight that we're looking at. And then of course, conversations, right? What we're trying to do is as soon as someone's on the platform, have as many conversations as possible with them, enable them, equip them to see value in SmartQ for their own function and business. Yep. And then once we see that, we basically are trying to see if if these clients are referenceable, right? Yep. Would they actually give me the name of one or two more people that I could go and talk to, right? I think that is another big checkbox that we're trying to tick, that if we're meeting these two, then we're doing something right. And that was really the idea, that, okay, I think we're there with these two conditions. Now to really go and scale and get hundreds of thousands of people onto the platform, we're going to need to accelerate all of our go-to-market activities. And for that, we're considering raising a seed.
Very cool. Okay. Let me ask another question then.
Yes.
Who is your perfect customer?
Oh, that's a great question. And, the answer will evolve and has evolved with every conversation I've had, right? Because we're still early in the game, right? We're still trying to figure out where and what customer persona are we adding the most value to, right? As of now, where we see ourselves adding most value is if you are a sales leader or a rep at an enterprise software company selling complex software
Yep.
to other enterprises or other complex buyers, right? Then with a reasonably sized sales teams and sales processes, then you're a great potential customer for us. An example of an industrial segment is the health tech segment in the US, right? They're selling complex products that are complex not just from a technology or solution point of view,
Yep.
but they're also complex from a clinical perspective that they're solving for. They're very complex from the compliance perspective that they're solving for.
Yep.
And they sell to complex buyers, right? They sell to insurers, they sell to pharmacies, they sell to hospital systems, they sell to large employers. And in each of those buyers, there's multiple layers of folks who you have to sell to.
Yep.
So how do you ensure that as a sales team, you are aligned and consistently messaging and showcasing your product in a way that resonates with each of your buyers at every stage? So right now, that's kind of the focus that we have in terms of our target customers and the outreach that we're doing.
Okay, cool. So as a startup entrepreneur, what are some top tips to share with our audience and viewers that you would go, okay, so you decided to do a startup. What's next?
Yeah. So and I think I have as a first time solo founder, I have a lot of don't do tips as opposed to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've made a ton of mistakes as I've sort of grown and built SmartQ. So the first thing is talk to as many people as you can. You have an idea, you're trying to solve it, draw something in the back of a napkin that this is how I'm solving it, and go talk to them.
Yep.
Before trying to like jump in, quit your job, and start building. The second thing I would say is that if you can, find a co-founder. It's
Okay.
great. There's pros to being a solo founder. Like you can take decisions faster. You're not accountable or answerable to a lot of people, which gives you velocity and speed.
Yep.
But as a startup founder, there's high highs and extremely low lows. And your spouse or your advisors or your board members, your mentors can always give you advice, but they're not on the journey with you. So
No.
they're not living it with you. So having a co-founder or two always helps, I think. And if I ever start up again, I that is the one thing that I intend to do. Like, find someone who you have like, you're following your vision and you're both aligned on the same path and vision, and try and do it together, right? So those are a couple of things that I would definitely say. And patience, I think, is the third and most important thing, because you read a lot of glamour stories. You read a lot about startups that have scaled very fast. They're raising a ton of money, and it makes you feel small. It makes you feel like inadequate.
Yeah,
exactly, right. And the thing is that I've had these conversations with a lot of fellow founders, and most, if not all, are in the same boat as you are. There's only these sort of outliers who you read about, and it's all the glitz and glamour comes from there. But being a startup founder is like it's just a lot of grind, right? That's really what it is. And so you just need to put your head down, figure out what you're doing. You obviously have faith in what you're building. That's why you decided to take the plunge. Just keep executing, right? Avoid getting bogged down by all the noise around you.
That's really, really good. In other words, just enjoy the journey.
Try to, yeah.
Just take a day at a time, because you have no idea what the next day will follow. And you really don't know what tactics you use will work or not.
Correct. Absolutely.
So you've got to enjoy, the exploration and curiosity of that.
Yes, very well said, Jeff.
So, mate, great to have a chat about your journey, and I love the Indian entrepreneurial experience that I have seen up personal and close. So thank you, Robin, for sharing your story. And mate, I look forward to catching up in Bombay or Mumbai.
Yes, sir.
Whatever.
Well, Bombay is what the OGs will call it. Mumbai is what the politicians will call it. So, it is what it is.
I'll meet you in Portland, Oregon.
Indeed. Yes. Or if I ever make the trip out to Sydney, I'll be sure to look you up, Jeff.
Well, that's where I am. So thank you, Robin. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. It was great.
Okay. Thank you.